Hello and welcome to a new episode of Silly Point. We continue our IPL preview, and today we will preview the top two teams from last year's IPL, Delhi Capitals and Mumbai Indians. Probably the favorites again this year, given that there hasn't been much of a difference between last year and this year. Spoiler alert, I have very different opinions this time on one of those teams, but we'll come to that. So, G, what are your thoughts on these two teams? Still have them as your picks?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to look it's hard to look beyond these two teams. To be honest, it's also to do with the auctions, right? The
Yeah,
auctions that we had for this IPL was a mini auction, so not much of an opportunity for teams to completely overhaul their core players. So as our fans would see from our previews, most of the teams we've kind of said that they'll repeat what happened last year.
yeah,
That's the kind of thing that we're saying, because not many teams have altered their balance too much. Yes, some teams have strengthened, by adding a few players here and there, but just overall Mumbai and Delhi seem to be strong as always.
yeah.
um,
We
but yeah, I
start with
mean,
DC.
yeah, let's start with DC. Obviously, a big blow to them
Yeah,
with
no
Shreyas Iyer
captain.
missing out. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to Rishabh Pant and his captaincy. I think he
Yeah,
might, like with his batting. We might see some funky stuff.
yeah. It'll be interesting to see. But I think the batting's pretty much sorted even without
Yeah,
Iyer.
yeah, because again,
So they have
you know,
Shikhar Dhawan, Prithvi Shaw.
yeah, Shikhar Dhawan, Prithvi Shaw. I guess the number three position is the question mark, right? The question
Yeah,
is whether you go with Ajinkya Rahane, or do you go with maybe Steve Smith.
yeah,
I don't know. It depends on the balance of the rest of the team, and we can come back to number three maybe.
yeah. I mean, I'd go with Rane as a starting point.
Yeah, okay.
Um, and then you have Hetmeyer at four.
Well, I was going to say that you probably go with Pant at four, Stoinis
Yeah,
at
Pant at
five,
four.
Pant at four, Stoinis at five, and Hetmaya at six. That
Yeah,
because that gives you a good left right combination as well, left hand right hand combination as
yeah,
well. So that's really handy. Um, and then I guess you've got to go with your spinners, right? So you go
yeah.
Akshar
So you have
Patel,
Akshar and Ashwin, seven and
Ashwin,
eight.
yeah, and then you can probably have three medium pacers, Rabada, Nokia, and and Ishan Sharma to start with,
Yeah, yeah. I
because
think
they
that's
do have,
pretty much.
that pretty much means they've picked their four overseas players already,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
So I mean, that's the thing. I think Steve Smith. I don't think
Yeah,
good
I
backup
mean,
option to have. But I mean, who would you drop? Would you drop
yeah, I
Stoinis?
guess I
Hetmar maybe is the only one, right? But
yeah, but then this is the thing I like with Delhi, that they've basically gone in with replacements for each position. So, for example, let's say that Rahane doesn't perform, then he can easily be replaced by Steve Smith,
yeah,
or then if Dhawan or Shaw aren't performing, Rahane can open. So
yeah,
they've got that flexibility there. They've got like for like players, right? In terms of keepers as well, they've gone with Vishnu Vinod, who's a young player from Tamil Nadu. He's a wicket keeper. So again, Pant injured, he can come in, right? If
yeah,
Hitmaya doesn't perform, you've got Sam Billings coming in there
yeah,
as a middle order player. And obviously, in terms of the spin department, you've got Amit Mishra, who's
yeah,
an amazing
yeah,
backup spin option to have, right?
yeah.
Um, and in terms of the pace bowlers as well, you've got Ishan Sharma, you've got Umesh Yadav, who
Your
I'm not a big
favorite?
fan of. I'm not at all a big fan of him.
Yeah,
But yeah, it is what it is. And I guess you've also got Tom Curran.
yeah. A good
You've
backup
got
option.
Chris Wokes, who's also a very, very good option. Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you think about it, with Nokia and Rabada coming into the IPL late, they're going to miss out on the first maybe one or two games because they're going to be in quarantine.
yeah,
So then think about it. You can easily play Tom Curran and Chris Wokes in place of
yeah.
them. You
But
know,
yeah, I mean that's a very big
big difference.
drop.
Yes, big drop
Drop.
in quality, but you can certainly, Chris Wokes, I think is a very underrated player in T20s especially. So I
Yeah,
think he can certainly, potentially replace maybe Nokia. I don't know.
yeah,
It's just a thought, maybe to strengthen the batting a little bit as well. But I
yeah,
think what we've discussed is probably going to be their starting 11. And like we've said, the bench strength is pretty strong.
yeah. I'd it's a strong team. I think a year's blow is a massive blow for them.
I agree. Yeah.
We'll come to their chances, but I think that kind of does mess around with the balance because obviously Rehane is he's good, but he's not the same
Yeah,
as their backup option. And Steve Smith, I mean, you end up. I don't think he'll play consistently, and we saw the issues that Rajasthan had with. He's a great player, don't get me wrong, but it's just he
yeah,
doesn't fit into to an IPL team, more especially if you have to bat him in the top three.
yeah. I mean, like I said again, Delhi. I don't know what they were thinking with Smith. I don't think
Yeah,
they required a player of his caliber.
yeah,
So because they had lots of top order
yeah,
option and they didn't require him, so they went with him, no
yeah,
problem. It kind of worked out for the best because Iyer got
yeah,
injured,
yeah,
so they have a top order player as a replacement, and that's great. But yeah, I don't
yeah.
see him playing as often. I
What do
think
you? Yeah,
Stoinis and Hitmaya are pretty much set in stone. Unless one of them lose form, then you can play Billings or
yeah,
Wokes.
and same for Rabada and Nokia, I think.
Yeah, Nokia, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, who do you think will be the top run scorer?
Top run scorer, I am going to go with Prithvi Shaw,
Oh
just
wow,
given his form. I mean, given his form,
his
with
form has been pretty bad. I
well
mean,
in
domestically, it's been good. Yeah,
domestic tournaments, he's coming off like an ODI domestic tournament, Vijay Hazare Trophy, where I think he scored 900 runs at an average of
wow,
160 and striking at 130. I think that
wow.
just bodes really well for them. So
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Shikhar Dhawan.
fair
I
enough.
think
Yeah,
similar.
that
He'll have a
makes
very
sense.
similar one to last year. He'll struggle in a couple of games, but then he'll get
Yeah,
one or two big hundreds, and
and
which will
and
skew the
yeah,
average.
and maybe he'd want to show the Indian selectors what they're missing out on because he
Yeah,
clearly isn't in the reckoning to open in the T20 World Cup. So that
yeah,
could be extra motivation for him.
yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Highest wicket taker, Ashwin. I'm
Rabada.
going to go
I'll
with
go with Rabada.
going with Rabada. I'll go with Ashwin. Again, Ashwin will be really hungry. I think he's
Yeah,
one of those players that works on wanting to prove himself. We know
yeah,
how good a Test match bowler he is, and he might want to use this as an opportunity to remind the selectors that fine. I think he's got more to prove than Dhawan because I
yeah.
mean we've got lots of openers, but the question is whether Ashwin is better than Washington Sundar or not. Which I
Yeah,
think he
it's
is,
a different role. It's a
but
different role, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So yeah, I'm going to go with Ashwin. You're going to go with Rabada. Rabada is a very simple,
easy
easy
pick.
option,
Yeah.
right? X Factor player.
Uh, Stoinis too obvious, but yeah, I can't look beyond Stoinis again. I mean, he kind of surprised everyone last year. No one
Yeah,
expected him to be as good as he actually was.
yeah,
And again, he can do it with the bat. He can do it with the ball.
yeah.
So yeah, can't look beyond him.
Agreed, agreed.
I think
I am
Rishabh Pant
going.
is now too obvious as well.
Yeah,
Although,
Rishabh Pant is too obvious as well. I'm going to go with someone offbeat. I'm going to pick Ishan Sharma.
yeah,
He missed all of the IPL last year, and again, he's one of those players who doesn't get to play, limited overs internationals for India. Not
yeah,
that he's going to get picked in the World Cup, but
yeah,
quite desperate to show that he can do well. And
yeah,
again, he could operate as a power play specialist.
yeah, yeah.
So
He's a good option.
he could potentially play that Bhuvaneshwar Kumar role, that Bhuvi played, bowling 2 to 3 overs up front,
Yeah,
and then maybe one over in the middle, 1 over in the middle phase, and that could be him
yeah.
done. And he could do really well in the power play, so I'm going to go with him. Yeah,
Where will they finish?
I see them in the final or winning. I think for me, Sunrisers and Delhi have an equal opportunity to be in the final and win the tournament.
Yeah. To me, I think they're borderline for top four.
Oh,
Um,
borderline top four. Okay.
yeah, because
And the reasons for that?
I had Punjab Kings or whatever the new name is now,
Yeah, Punjab Kings. Yeah,
as kind of qualifying,
yeah,
and I think the one team that probably will drop out versus last year is Delhi.
is
I
Delhi.
think a year being one issue,
Yeah,
Nokia and Rabada starting off late. I think if they lose the first couple of games, it'll be difficult for them to play catch up.
yeah,
And also because I think that the surprise factor of Nokia is gone. I think he had a very good IPL last year, but you know, people may have worked him out now, and he might not have the same impact that he did last year.
yeah,
Um, so I think all of those things come into it.
yeah,
And also, I just think again, they have a good starting 11, but if anything happens to any of the top three Indian batsmen with no Iyer anyway,
yeah,
there's I mean, there's decent options, but I just don't think
yeah.
they'll
I
have the
mean,
quality to win it.
I kind of slightly disagree with you there. I do agree that missing a year is a big, is a big loss. I just think that they have
Mm.
been smart about the positions, and I still feel like, okay, Steve Smith is not a bad batsman to come into the top three and replace one of Dhawan, Shaw, Rahane if needs be.
Yeah,
That just means that they've got to go to their domestic bowlers, because they might have to leave out Nokia, for example,
yeah,
or they might have to even leave out Hitmaya.
yeah. That'll
So
be
I mean, and
interesting, but
for me the biggest factor, right? This is
yeah,
what I'm banking them, banking their winning on, is the fact that Rishabh Pant in the
yeah,
last 2 or 3 months, we've all seen what he's done.
yeah,
He's made the Indian team win from almost impossible situations, and he brings that confidence with him to captaincy
yeah,
now as well. So I just feel like that will hopefully will have such a big impact
yeah.
on the whole Delhi squad. And obviously with Ponting as captain, like Ponting, we all know how
Coach.
good he was as coach.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
we all know how good he was as captain in terms of strategy, in terms of
yeah.
actually being ruthless and winning tournaments. I just feel like this might be their time.
Yeah, I
And
mean, it could work for them.
it would be even more sweeter if they managed to do it without a year.
Yeah, I mean, they started off really well last year, and then they kind of lost their way towards the end, and
Little
then they
bit.
kind of
Yeah.
just had a mini revival and they won
Yeah.
towards the end. But I just don't see them going all the way.
True.
Um, let's
So
agree to
that's
disagree on that.
Yeah, that's one of the things we agree
Yeah,
to disagree on. I mean,
yeah,
I think it's probably between Kings 11 and Delhi then,
yeah.
because I've
In my
even I've
opinion,
said
yeah,
Kings 11 top four, but I'm flexible about it. We can't really sit here and say
yeah.
these are going to be the top four.
Of
So,
course not. This is our
so yeah,
expert opinion.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, so,
Yeah,
in my opinion,
yeah,
it's probably for you, it's one between Delhi and Kings. In my opinion, it's one between RCB and Kings,
yeah.
you know.
Should we move on to MI?
Am I should do we even need to discuss anything for them?
Yeah,
I mean,
hardly
literally,
anything. No auction, no major picks.
yeah. I
No
mean, the
need, I
only
guess.
a little bit of controversy with them picking Arjun Tendulkar in the squad. That
Tick
probably was the
box
only bit
tick.
of yeah, it was a tick box exercise, you could call it. That was the only piece of controversy. Everything else has been pretty smooth sailing. You
Yeah,
know, we can talk about the starting 11.
yeah. Well, the
Uh,
only question is, will Sharma open or will he bat at four?
no, no,
Will
he's going
Sharma
to
move
open.
down?
Why will he bat at four?
He moved down to four, didn't he? Was it
No, no,
last season, a couple of years ago?
no, no. I mean, that was a while back, but I think
Yeah,
in the last 2 years, maybe he's always opened at the
yeah.
IPL.
There'll be
So
QDK and
yeah,
Sharma to open. Sky
yeah,
at three.
yeah. Ishan Kishan at four,
Ishan Kishan at four.
Pollard at five,
Paul at five. Pandya 6, 7.
6, 7. Yeah, I guess the number eight position is the position for a spinner. It could
Yeah,
be a question mark. It could be a choice between Piyush Chawla and Rahul Chahar, but
yeah,
Rahul Chahar was the incumbent, so
yeah,
he should be in the starting 11, and he also bowled decently against
yeah,
England. So I
yeah.
think that should give him a boost and that. And then you've got your three pacers, out of which two are Bumrah and Bolt.
And
Uh,
Bolt.
and then, I think it's a toss up between Adam Milne and Nathan Coulter-Nile, but I'd go with Adam Milne because he's faster.
Yeah. Yeah. Although they played Coulter towards the end, right? He was injured at the
They
beginning
did.
and he came
Yeah,
back.
yeah, they did.
He
But
can
even,
bat a bit as well.
yeah, he can bat a bit as well. So yeah, maybe Coulter-Nile could bat at 8, 9,
Yeah.
strengthen their batting. I mean, what can you say? If you
Yeah.
look down their squad list, they've got Chris Lynn, who can
Yeah.
easily replace De Kock, right?
Yeah.
Ishan Kishan can keep.
Yeah.
You've got Saurabh
Jimmy
Tiwari. You've got Saurabh
Jimmy
Tiwari.
Neesham.
You've got Jimmy Neesham who can replace Pollard.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Adam Milne who can replace Coulter-Nile or Bolt.
Yeah. No,
You've
they've got
got
a very good.
you've got Marco Jansen, who's a 20-year-old from South Africa. He's a left armer. He can replace Bolt. You've
Yeah.
potentially, I mean, it feels weird to say this, but at least a like for like player. You've got Arjun Tendulkar to replace one of the Pandya brothers if required.
Yeah. Yeah.
You in the spin department. You've got Jayant Yadav, who's a off spinner.
Yeah.
Um, you've got Anukul Roy, who's a left armer as well. So lots of options there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it'll pretty much be the same starting 11. I think Pattinson obviously has dropped out, but
Yeah,
NCN was probably the incumbent anyway if he didn't get injured.
agreed. Yeah,
Otherwise, it's pretty much the same 11 that won the IPL last year.
Agreed.
You
Yeah.
can't really look beyond them
And
to
they're
do
all in
much
good
worse.
they're all in
Yeah,
good form, right? Like what do you
yeah,
what do you do?
exactly.
Which basically means that, I'm gonna say,
Yeah,
maybe Sky to be highest run scorer.
yeah, I'll go Rohit Sharma.
You're going Rohit
Boring
Sharma.
option. For
Boring.
once, he will have a good IPL.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if he has a good IPL,
Consistent.
maybe Mumbai don't win.
Yeah. Top wicket taker, I'll go Bumrah just because he'll bowl in the death. He'll bowl
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of Yorkers. He'll take a lot of wickets.
yeah. I agree, and he
Uh,
hasn't played recently as well.
yeah.
So I think he'd be hungry to get into
On
the
on
role
a
of
side note,
players.
probably my pick for purple cap as well.
Okay, fine.
But um, and then X Factor. I mean, again, you pick any of them, and it's not really X Factor because you can, you know,
Pandya
maybe,
brothers.
yeah, maybe Krunal Pandya more than because Hardik and Pollard will just be cheating if
Yeah,
you pick any of them. So maybe Krunal Pandya because
yeah, because
he had good international series
yeah,
against
yeah.
England
Fair
with the
enough.
bat at least, maybe not with the ball, but with the
Yeah,
bat he did pretty well.
yeah.
So yeah.
And one final question on Mumbai. Do you think Arjun Tendulkar would get to play a game?
Uh, Maybe if they qualify and they they have like a dead rubber at the end, maybe then.
Okay, fine.
I don't see
I
him
don't
playing
I
in the
yeah,
beginning
just that was just a question that popped into my head, but I don't see him getting a chance unless there's injury, obviously.
unless injury or
Yeah,
yeah, there's a dead
yeah,
game. It's not like
yeah, yeah.
give him an opportunity for the sake of it. I don't see him
Fair
playing.
enough. And it's fair to say that we see Mumbai in the top four.
Yeah, I see them top two maybe.
Yeah, top two.
If I had to really stick my neck out and go for it, but top four for sure, and yeah, top two.
Whether whether they win it, hard to say. Very
I mean,
few
yeah,
teams.
yeah, on their day, anyone can go ahead and
I
Warner can
know, but
score 100 on in the final or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
So,
I guess very few teams have won three T20 titles in a row. So if they manage to do it, it's going to be a
yeah.
shocker, I think.
But they're, I mean, this is the best chance anyone will ever have. They're probably the favorites in anyone's eyes as well.
Yeah, eyes. Yeah, yeah.
And
Agreed.
yeah, I mean, they're as strong as any of them. So
Yeah,
I have them top two, maybe not three in a row, but definitely top two.
yeah. Fair enough. So
Yeah,
just to recap for our viewers, our top four teams are going to be Mumbai, um,
Sunrisers,
Mumbai Sunrisers, and
two out of Punjab, Delhi, and RCB.
RCB. Yeah, correct. That's it. That's fair. So we've got five teams
Yeah,
in the contest, but we definitely agree on Mumbai and Sunrisers.
yeah,
Zahid thinks that it's going to be Kings 11 and RCB. I think it'll be Delhi and
yeah.
it'll be Delhi and RCB or Delhi Kings 11.
And my pick is SRH to win the whole thing.
Yeah,
Um,
and
he is
my
being a
pick
bit more
is
diplomatic.
my pick is one between Delhi and SRH as well. So I
Yeah.
agree with that. Cool.
Cool. Okay, so that's our episode. Let us know if you agree. Are we being too straightforward, going with probably the bookies' favorites? Am I to finish in the top two, or am I being too harsh on DC to narrowly miss out on the top four? Let
Maybe
us know
that's
what you think.
harsh. Maybe
Yeah,
that's harsh. But with MI, what can you do? Like, they have the
yeah,
best team. They didn't have to do much at the auction. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you have to have some picks, right? Otherwise, you just
Yeah.
copy pasting last year's IPL. What's the point?
Fair enough.
So yeah, so that's what we think. Let us know if you agree. As always, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.